Absolutely. Let's start, shall we, with the King's visit to France being cancelled. This is a huge story, actually, and it has developed overnight.
Yeah, and in a way, this is the constitutional side of the monarchy. That's what's really at play here. Because considering this was going to be his first official state visit, and he wanted to go to France, and he is subsequently going to Germany as planned, this was seen as important in a post-Brexit Britain. And the King very much wants us to keep Europe on side. So that was his value. Now, to get a call from Macron and say that it's not safe for you to come is humiliating for President Macron in the first place, because he saw it as an important sort of boost to him in a way that the King had chosen. And even though we've got issues with the immigration and all that going on within France and with Britain, the relations have not always been just entente cordiale over the last few months. This was an important moment, and it's not quite unprecedented. The Queen did pull out of a state visit to Iran in the late 70s when Iran was going through its changes and when the Shah was deposed in the late 70s. And there are other occasions when she pulled out of various events that she was due to go to abroad. But this, in a sense, this was the big moment for the King for his first official visit, and then the plug is pulled on it. So it's not the King's fault. Unfortunately, France do love a revolution. And when they go about having a revolution or protesting, they don't do it by half. So that's the problem. And going to the Versailles, as I think they would have been going to tonight, the optics wouldn't have played well while they're grandstanding. So not a good look given French history and what Versailles means.
Well, no, it's extraordinary, actually. I thought it had been the security services on our side that had pulled the King's visit, but actually, as you say, it was not that at all. It was the French side.
Yeah, because they realise politically at home, this is not a good look. He's got to try and restore the equilibrium again. You know, when you've got town halls being burnt, you've got people on the streets of Paris, you've got lots going on. Look, it's how bad it is. We're sort of looking at, we don't know exactly how bad it is, but it obviously, from President Macron's point of view and from a PR point of view, remember, these state visits are about the PR and the optics of what's going on, because there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. You know, Rishi Sunak recently had Ursula von der Leyen in for that Windsor Agreement. There's been a lot going on behind the scenes just to try and get the sort of post-Brexit era moving along with Europe and obviously with the Ukraine war. So it really is, you know, it's probably deeply frustrating for the King that he's not able to do it. But as I say, he will go to Germany, which again is an important moment as well, that will now be his first official state visit overseas for the King going to Germany. And that again is a sort of interesting sort of historical landmark as well. So it was meant to be a big week for the King, but clearly the French political situation has unraveled in the last week or so.
I mean, it's really interesting. The King is very clearly, obviously, trying to shake things up, do things differently, to be seen in a different light. And certainly your next story is about that as well, isn't it? About slimming down the monarchy. He's up to something else as well.
Well, he's basically going to make them pay the proper rent. And I think, again, the optics of that are important. When, you know, if it's seen like non-working royals who actually, you know, they're not actually working on behalf of the state and doing their duties, then why shouldn't they pay a proper rent? Because they're no different from anybody else. And he doesn't want people to be seen to be freeloading, because, again, that's a very important part of his optics and being frugal and trying to make it seem that, you know, it is value for money. Now, if you've got various members of the royal family holed up in grace and favour flats or houses, it's not a good look. And so he wants them to pay proper rent. And I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. Least of all, it shouldn't be members of the royal family who probably can afford to pay the proper rent for a place in central London. Rents are pretty meaty. So,
well, they are for a palace.
Well, or a house in Kensington Palace. I think heaven knows what the going monthly rate for rental is, but it's not in our budgets, I don't think. So, you know, perhaps but they will then look at maybe renting it out as long as people have been security vetted elsewhere. So I think he's trying to make it economically more prudent, and that's why he wants a slimmed down monarchy. And obviously that then creates the additional, you know, what do you do with Andrew and all the other things? he will have to pay his way as expected.
Absolutely. We've heard a lot about Harry's book, obviously. Someone else is going to write a book.
Well, last time he did a public interview, it went well, didn't it? Andrew is saying, you know, because from that interview, the Emily Maitlis interview, it all unravelled for him. And if he's going to write a book, I mean, when you look at the Spare book, people have picked holes in everything in that book, and it's, you know, hence the reason it's been lampooned. It's a brave shout if Andrew does want to write a book and tell his side of the story, and try and prove his innocence, because he's desperate to try and rehabilitate himself. But the court of public opinion is not in his favour, and he thinks this book would be a way of doing it. Well, he also thought a way of doing it was doing that Panorama interview, and look how that turned out.
Well, I mean, René made a great point this morning. Who's advising him?
Well, he tends to advise himself. That's his problem. He tends to believe his own counsel. And maybe that's not a good look. So he's got to reevaluate. Look, it probably is quite hard for him. He's only in his early 60s. He's still got plenty of his life in front of him. If he's holed up in whatever house and grace and favour house he's got, doing not a lot, it obviously feels he's rudderless. But he's been hoisted by his own petard, and that's the problem for him. And, you know, he's got to find a way of doing something, and he thinks a book would be a way. But unfortunately, his arrogance over the years has been one of the problems that has got him into this particular situation.
Sorry, I've got noises off. What did you say?
He could get a job.
He could get a job. How about that, Rupert?
Well, who's going to employ him, René?
Well, he could be your secretary.
He could be my secretary. He could be a groom at the Palace stables.
Rupert?
Something like that.
How about that?
Mucking out. He'd be out there mucking out in the pouring rain on a Sunday morning. Yeah, right. You see that happening, René?
So final question. Have you had the invite to the coronation yet?
You ask me this every week. It's not happening, right? Right? It's not going to happen.
We got one, didn't we?
Well, very good, because there's only 2,000. What you're going to hear now is MPs pleading that they can't go to it. That's what you're going to have, and members of the House of Lords upping in arms and saying, "Oh, we haven't won the lottery ticket to the coronation." So, you know, unfortunately, not for me. And I don't think my job allows me to be in the front row of the royal family.
And also, just very quickly, in terms of the plans for the coronation, any gossip on that? Because it's been pretty quiet.
Gossip? I mean, every bit of speculation. Next bit of gossip is that Meghan and Harry definitely want to be on the balcony to celebrate this special family moment. Well, you believe that, or if that is the case... I'm not sure that the rest of the family see this as a special family moment, having them on the balcony. But that, again, is the kind of gossip that you were alluding to. I know what you were doing there, David.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Rupert. Very good to talk to you.